We're here in the heart of the Atchafalaya Basin on a tract of land known as the Sherburne Complex. This is a 44,000 acre complex of wetland-associated habitats. On this tract, 5 major habitats exist that run from open water, which we have plenty of here, along with pockets of freshwater marsh, along with riparian woodlands, bottomland hardwood forest, and cypress tupelo swamp habitats. All those habitats together create an amazing diversity of places where birds and other wildlife can thrive. Three major continental flyways more or less converge here in south central Louisiana, right at the latitude of the Atchafalaya Basin. And for this reason, the basin functions almost as an epicenter, a major conduit for bird life coming from eastern, central, and western parts of North America. It's relatively protected here in terms of pure habitat, not sullied very much by human habitation, and it allows these birds to move through north and south, depending on which migration period it is, in relative safety and comfort. There are great places for foraging all over the complex, as well as places for nesting for the neotropical songbirds that nest here in the summer, and roosting for all the other birds. On a continental perspective, the sheer volume of bird life that moves through the Atchafalaya Basin, as well as the volume of birds that actually nest here, make this small spot, only 1 million acres, and which is relatively small in the context of the entire North American continent. But it makes this small area as important as any other area within continental North America as far as bird conservation goes. Probably the most amazing time of the year here in the Atchafalaya Basin is the late spring months and very early summer months, when neotropical songbirds are setting up nesting territories here in the basin. From a sound standpoint, the sheer intensity and volume and diversity of songbird voices, especially the dawn chorus, which occurs just after sunlight every single day, it is an amazing thing to witness here. It's like, really, from a sound perspective, no other place in North America. As summer fades into fall, the fall migration season begins, and again, the Atchafalaya Basin functions much like a freeway, attracting birds from all parts of North America, funneling them southward onto the Gulf Coast. And from that point, they'll move gradually west around the coastal bend of Texas and into Central and South America. But it's the Atchafalaya Basin that really gathers these birds up as they move southward. Bird activity does not dissipate with fall migration. After fall migration, at the onset of the winter season, again, we have many birds from northern parts of the United States and into Canada that come down here in order to spend the winter months. They go no further than the Gulf Coast. These are called near-Arctic migrants, and there are even more near-Arctic migrants than there are neotropical migrants. So the action here during a typical winter day is akin to the action bird-wise that we see during the spring months and even during fall migration. Over half of the bird species native to the North American continent have shown serious degrees of decline over the past 30 years. This has been documented through 30 years worth of breeding bird surveys that have been conducted throughout North America. Most biologists would agree that the Atchafalaya Basin is of global importance when it comes to bird conservation as well as conservation of other forms of wildlife. Historically, the Atchafalaya Basin was known as a refuge for some of North America's rarest birds, including the ivory-billed woodpecker, for example. The last documented recording of the ivory-billed woodpecker came as late as 1970 in the lower part of the Atchafalaya Basin. And even today, now that the ivory-billed is gone, but today many other birds of special concern call the Atchafalaya Basin home. I think the most predominant today, and certainly the most beautiful, would be the swallowtail kite, a graceful raptor, very few left, relatively speaking, throughout their southeastern United States range. They are diminishing over most of their range, and they're being watched very carefully here in the Atchafalaya Basin. It's only through wildlife management programs and natural habitat acquisition programs, such as we have here at the Sherburne Complex, that we can begin to assure safe places in the future for wildlife to thrive. The documented declines in over half of the bird species native to North America, and in light of the fact that these declines are primarily attributed to habitat destruction, especially in the eastern part of the United States and Canada, places like the Atchafalaya Basin loom ever more important with each passing year as sanctuaries where these birds can safely live and move through during spring and fall migrations each year.
We're pretty much an area for every migrating waterfowl in the U.S. They've actually imprinted on these marshes for many, many years, thousands of years, way before our time, and they pass that down. Their generations come back to the same place every year, every year, every year. Well, we're losing that sea level rise. You know, as more encroachment comes with salt water and things, the fresh water is disappearing. And pretty soon you're going to have nothing but uplands. Then you'll have no waterfowl. The federal government chose places in Louisiana and coastal areas because that's where the majority of the habitat for migrating waterfowl existed. The convergence of the Central and Mississippi Flyway, the numerous amounts of waterfowl that concentrated here in the winter was an indicator of this should be a refuge area. Central, Mississippi, and Pacific. The Mississippi and Central converge here. They start out up in the tundra areas and come through Canada and go through the prairie pothole region, and the birds end up here, and this is where they stay all winter. With erosion that's been going on, the Gulf was out a good ways. You know, the land base was further out than it is now. We probably, in our lifetime, the last 50 years, lost 36 miles or something like that. Without this area, the birds aren't going to have anywhere to go, and it's in their natural instinct to migrate. If they don't have a place to come here and they get short stopped, say in Arkansas or something, and it freezes up, there's no food source. They die out. We're in the edge of the Cheniere Plain. Right here it actually comes through here and curves up and heads back north a little bit. At one time the Cheniere Plain stretched all the way from Sabine Pass all the way over to Vermilion Bay. Our goal is to grow the foods that is more palatable in energy gain, energy loss. You know, so we actually do that here, and we'll stay flooded up for 9 months out of the year. The variety of our three main refuges in southwest Louisiana, Sabine, Lacassine, and Cameron Prairie. Sabine being more brackish, we're more coastal prairie here at Cameron Prairie, and then Lacassine's an impounded pool. That gives us an array of different species of birds. You know, wetland species, 78% of the species of animals on Earth, wetland species. No wetlands, you lose the species. The National Refuge System was built upon preserving waterfowl, and so they invented these refuges down all the corridors of the flyways to have safe havens for these birds to migrate back and forth. In that regard, it's important to preserve the species in these refuge systems. Our major bird is the snow goose. They have subspecies of that as blue goose. They're here. Not any greater Canadas, but we have cacklers that come here. We have every species that's there. We have blue-winged teal, green-winged teal, widgeons, mallards, gadwall, scaup, white-fronted geese that people call speckled bellies. You know, that's the local name. And their main quarter is on the Pacific coast, but we have plenty that come here. And non-migratory natives like rails, we have king rails, clapper rails. We got the hybridization of the two rails that is in this region. They call it a cling rail. That's something that's new, and they just have finished the studies actually on Cameron Prairie on that. Those lands they're disappearing at an alarming rate, and we're one of the last bastions, you could say, and protectors of that migratory corridor.